Hello, everyone. I hoped you enjoyed the speed networking session if you took part or that you managed to grab yourselves a cuppa. I'm Laura Robertson and I'm a Senior Development Manager in the Food and Drink team at Highlands and Islands Enterprise. Welcome to those of you who are joining your first Highlands and Islands Regional Food Groups Conference panel, and welcome back to those of you who were with us earlier for the Attracting and Retaining Staff session. The topic of this panel is funding, and it's running in parallel with today's collaboration session. So if you're in the wrong place, there's time to swap sessions now. All of today's conference content is being filmed and will be uploaded onto HIE's YouTube channel soon, so you can watch the sessions that you missed at a later date. We'll also send out a delegate follow-up pack within the next week containing the speaker slides, website links, and any useful resources that have been mentioned during the course of this morning's conference. So you can relax and enjoy this live experience knowing that you'll get all the details by email. So today is about engagement, networking, and asking questions. On that point, our three funding panel speakers will give presentations lasting up to 10 minutes each before we open the floor for your questions. So please note down any comments and queries as you watch and listen and pop them into the Socio Q&A box, and I'll pose them to our panelists at around 20 past 11 this morning. So just before I hand over to today's speakers, I'd like to say a few words on funding for regional food groups. On behalf of the Scotland Food and Drink Partnership, which HIE is a member of, I'm pleased to confirm the continuation of funding for regional food groups for 2022 to 2023. This is part of the sector's recovery plan, which is supported by the Scottish Government. We're currently refreshing Ambition 2030, the National Food and Drink Strategy, and within that we aim to develop a longer-term funding model to support regional food groups. This recognises the challenges that you face in terms of planning and staffing, so hopefully that's good news. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome to our screens Ali Murray of Atlantic Consultants, my colleague Nicola Ewing from Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and John Garton from Genuine Jersey. Over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Laura. Sharing screen, so if one of the speakers could wave to me if the screen is now live, I'll just get going. Are we okay? Good, thanks. Hello, everybody. I believe there's quite a wide-ranging experience base listening in, so I'm going to talk about applications and pitching to the lowest common denominator. Because time is precious and because your time is precious, my first point is you need to put as much time into investment as you need to. Now, clearly, you should know your own business best, but others are likely going to know investors better. So ask for help. That's point number one. I do it all the time, and that means that learning to network effectively is very, very important. Okay, one-on-one always makes more than two. And as well as knowing your business, I think you also need to appreciate where it sits in the wider scheme of things. I mean, can you articulate to someone else the key value that makes customers buy from you rather than someone else? Is that tangible? Is it intangible? More importantly, can you explain how you're going to scale your business up and what messages you're going to use through various channels to build a wider awareness of your own business? Now, as well as doing all of that, unfortunately, you need to do it better than anyone else because competition for capital is intense and investors will always have an alternative. So what helps at this stage is a business plan. Now, this is the original script for Robin Hood, the movie with Kevin Costner. And from a film script, you can actually start to work out a shooting schedule, which means you begin to understand how many actors you need, what props are required, where you're going to go for locations. What you're basically doing is you're starting to build a budget and a timeline to gain funding, which is a business plan. Now, our business plan's probably going to look more like this: standard things like the competition, the target market, and if you don't have one, there's plenty of free formats online. And there's plenty of people in the region that can actually give you free advice in order to put your planning process together. But the reason I'm stressing on business plans so much is that if you place it and the time it takes you to do it into this circle, then this is where it sits in the iceberg in terms of getting ready for funding. And if you do this right, it's going to help you hone a better funding application. Because everything you need to do in your funding activity, let's say above the waves with other people, is fed from below and it's enhanced by below. Now, what do I mean by that? Slide stop there, but let's go to that one. What I mean is if I take a different sector, like publishing, an author isn't gonna do a first draft of a novel straight away. They will do research, then a draft, then they'll probably do more research, then another draft. So start to treat your business plan as the research and the first draft combined that you can then use to articulate a good pitch later on to a specific investor. Because I would submit that it's the preparatory business planning work that actually gets you in the lift in the first place. And of course, with the caveat that we're doing this to get money to grow, early stage funding pots have been greatly reduced since the pandemic, but there is always interesting ways to gain early finance. The problem is you actually have to spend a bit of time to look for it. I mean, if you want to marry a millionaire here, the first thing you got to do is you got to hang out where millionaires are, or you're not going to meet them. So you have to do a little bit of digging. Now, what attracts any investor is not only making money, but it's making money in the sectors that they like. So the key point here is that seeking funding will take you time because you've got to tailor your approach to the right funder. But when you do find the right pot of money, then certainly do all of this. But keep key criteria in any application in mind. It's a bit like sitting an exam, I think, where people are going to mark your submission against the criteria required. And either you're going to excel at meeting the criteria, or you're simply going to show them how you excel. And it's always the former that wins. Assess all costs as well. There are costs of looking for funding. It could be simply time away from your business. It could be hotels. It could be travel. But it all takes time. But now that we've decided to go for it, some very, very simple tips for me within the rest of the 10 minutes. It will always take longer, a lot longer than you think, to put together what I would call an excellent bid as opposed to a good one. So think about these things. I mean, winning funding is basically all about standing out. So people give money to you rather than someone else. And that basically comes down to competition. Communication rather. So if I kind of wave like this, and I can't see all of you listening in right now, but what I'm doing linked to this slide is I'm encoding a message into a hand signal and I'm sending it through a Zoom channel, and hopefully you'll pick it up okay. But the point here is if it's misunderstood or it doesn't get through, then it's my fault, no one else's. Many, many years ago, Aspirin decided to go into the Middle East, and they realized after research that the target audience was semi-literate. So they had a rather lovely series of cartoons where a guy's got a sore head and somebody gives him a pill and he takes it and he smiles and the sun comes out. But what they forgot was in the Middle East, people read across the page a different way than we do. So it turned out to be a disaster. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes planning and considerations can still make things go wrong. But when things go right, as far as I'm concerned, in my experience, more often than not, you gain money because your application reads like a good, entertaining story. It has a good narrative that hooks you in and keeps building. That's how you make your application stand out. And I admit this can take time to learn, but quite frankly, if you're looking to get regular investment to grow, then it's something worth learning. Because if you can do this part properly, then you become one of these. You actually stand out. And once you've got your final application ready, certainly do more than one draft. The first draft can always be improved. Get people to check it over. And believe it or not, the amount of bad grammar and spelling I have seen in applications is simply far too many. But now we've done that, if we're going pitching face-to-face, that becomes a bit different because people tend to make decisions between rational and emotional things in the face-to-face environment. So 5 quick tips the way I do it. First of all, what matters first is making a rapport. People buy from people. So at the very least, smile, because at the very start, they're not actually listening to you. They're simply sussing you out. Do I like her? Do I like him? Once you've done that, quickly build your credibility. Sell yourself, then your company. Now that they've gotten to now that they like you and they think you're credible, only then will they start listening to you. You're probably 40, 50 seconds in at this point. So this is when we've got to hit them with our killer statement, our classic feature benefits. Now, I don't have time to go into the detail here right now, but you have to brainstorm this part really carefully to get it right. It's the crux of your pitch, and you have to come across as very believable. But once you've put your benefits through to them, fling them out soundproof or testimonials, and then ask for the business. Close. Too many people forget to close a negotiation when they're actually in that sort of situation. Now, apparently, this phrase originally was written down by a gentleman called Socrates, who lived quite a long, long time ago. But I really like it because if you think about what those words say, if we start doing things often enough, then they start to become a habit. And my key point today to leave you with is if you're really, really serious about getting funding for your business, you have to start making a habit of getting ready to ask for the money. It's definitely a skill that can be learned. And if you want to be really excellent, rather than just the same as anyone else, then it always starts with research and it always needs a fluid business planning process. The reason this slides up is the lady that invented the Teletubbies spent 6 to 9 months doing nothing but sitting watching young children, how they interacted with each other, how their hands moved, what voices and noises they made. She then distilled it into a really interesting business pitch and got the TV and got the money. And my point here is that without all of that work below the waves, she wouldn't have succeeded. So learn to tell stories about all of these issues that's linked to your own business. Spend a bit of time on it, be creative, get other people involved as well. And finally, self-belief for me is very, very powerful. So whatever it takes to get you confident, sprinkle it all over and simply go knock them dead. That's me over for just now, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali, for those practical pointers. I'm sure there's something in there that everyone will take away today. Please message any questions you've got or comments for our contributors in the Socio Q&A box, and we'll get them ready for the panel when all the presentations are complete. We're also running online audience polls in Socio throughout the conference today to gather your views on the topics we're discussing. You can vote before 20 to 12 on whether you find writing a business plan a necessary evil or the secret to success. I'll announce the delegate poll result at 11:45, just before we take another short networking break. Our next speaker is here to tell us about funding and business support services. Over to you, Nicola.
Okay, thank you, Laura, for the introduction. If you can share the slides, please. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Nicola Ewing, and my role within HIE is to focus on and develop support products for the businesses, social enterprises and community organisations that HIE support across our region. I'll pick up on some of the points that Ali highlighted during his presentation and hopefully give you a flavour of some of the funding and support mechanisms that are currently available to help support your organisation. So can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so to start with, many of you may or may not be aware of FBS, which is Find Business Support. Find Business Support provides its customers with an overview of all funding and services offered by public sector organisations across Scotland. I'll give you a quick overview of FBS and how to use the online platform. We'll then talk about net zero support. There's a huge amount of information out there for you on net zero, what it means for us and how we can improve our businesses. So I'll give you a quick demo of a tool that we've developed to help support there also. I'll talk about other forms of business support as we go through the presentation. I'll highlight a few available options and suggestions for you to consider or to investigate further. Move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so Scotland has a lot of public sector offerings and in terms of support and products available. And there's a challenge there. How do we offer them in one practical place to allow and organisations to access this information as easy as possible? On to the next slide, please. It was recognised that confusion existed and that organisations did not always know where to go to look for the support that is available. Find Business Support was therefore created at the request of the Scottish Government to meet these needs, and the portal was created to offer a streamlined system of business support available to customers through a single digital access point. For the first time, businesses can browse all of Scotland's public sector support options in one place. The website provides information on hundreds of services, events, including training, funding options, networking events, and industry seminars. FBS is not a support organisation. It doesn't offer services itself. We can, however, think of FBS as a confused.com or a moneysupermarket.com for public sector support. We move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to take you quickly into the portal so that we can see how easy it is to navigate through. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so hopefully I'm into the portal now. So you can see on the first page, so here's the search engine. And if we just scroll down quickly, you can sign up for email updates here. And this comes weekly in the form of a newsletter. So it's a really good idea to sign up for this. But I'll go back up to the search engine and I'm going to type in food and drink. As you can see, there's a list of programs automatically highlighted there. But I'm going to click through onto the search site. You can see down the left-hand banner, you can look under various categories of the support you're looking for. You can search by location, you can search by sector, food and drink as a sector, or you can search by the type of support you're looking for. You can also click on the events button here. That takes you to all the events that are available across the whole of Scotland and how to sign up for them and whether there's a charge or whether they're free. I'm going to click back onto services. I'm going to just show you here, if we join the Support Local Food and Drink directory, you can find out more. All the pages are very standard, so you have all of this information in terms of what does it involve, are you eligible, and what is the cost. If I just scroll down the screen here, I'm going to click through, and this takes us direct to Scotland Food and Drink, so direct through to the partners website where you can find the information that you're looking for. Back to the home page. There's tabs across the top. You can find information about coronavirus and the support available. There's about 56 search engine and product types under net zero, and you can find a lot about more about to find business support. A few stats. So far, we've got 67 public sector organisations who have got products on the FBS portal. The team are currently on the process of onboarding another 30 local authority organisations. So soon we'll have over 90 public sector organisations on FBS. There's a total of 534 support offerings in a lot of the subject areas that we've discussed. And so far, 11,500 people have signed up for the newsletter, which is issued weekly. So I'll stop sharing now and we'll go back to the slides, please. Okay, so this information, there's a huge amount of information out there on net zero. So as well as the benefits to our planet, starting a journey towards net zero can have direct positive impact on your business and community. Simple steps like improving energy efficiency, streamlining processes, and reducing waste can improve your bottom line. You may also open the door to new customers, investments, and fresh talented employees who want to work for green enterprises. I've included some useful links here on the presentation slide, which we'll then distribute at the end. And I've included the link to the SME Climate Hub and to the Net Zero Toolkit. On the HIE website, you can see, and we'll introduce you to our Net Zero Heroes. For inspiration and to identify new opportunities you could put into practice in your organisation. You can find out about how other businesses are leading the change in sectors such as tourism and food and drink, who are improving efficiency and sustainability. I'm going to take you quickly into a summary page that HIE have created to help you navigate through all of the information that is currently available. So again, if you could stop sharing, I'll share my screen. Okay, so click into this link onto the HIE website, And if we scroll down, I mentioned the SME Climate Hub and the other diagnostic tools that are available to help you. And we click into the Net Zero Support Summary. I will click in here. And really, we've just tried to distill all the information that's out there to make it easy for you to navigate through. So the beginning of the page is very much about the context, and it takes you to the Scottish Government's action plan. And then what we've done is we've split the themed areas into reduced carbon impacts of operations, environmental impacts, waste and utilities, and to reduce carbon impacts of products and services. Under each heading, there's various links. I'm going to click on reduce carbon in the supply chain. And it gives you some offerings there where you can click again through. I'm going to click on implementing carbon farming in your supply chain. And it takes you directly to the partner's website. Okay, so as Ali's described, I think in the earlier presentation, it's not all about grants. Although grants are extremely valuable and they have their place, they can be time consuming. They can be oversubscribed on many occasions. Levels of grant, as Ali described, are decreasing. Although we've seen a huge number of grants over the past few years, they won't always be at the same levels that they are now. So more importantly than ever, we need to consider other options, such as developing income generating assets, services and products, membership fees, sponsorships and donations, and consider loans and other types of investments. You need to use your contacts and your networks, consider and increase the organisation's leadership capacity and confidence, learn how to pitch effectively and sell your organisations and the services you deliver. Ensure you have the appropriate structure and governance in place. And also be ready for when funding rounds are announced at short notice. Signing up to the Fine Business Support newsletter will help you keep up to speed with these short notice announcements. On to the next slide, please. Thank you. So to help businesses and social enterprises, HIE and many other partner organisations offer a range of one-to-many programmes, self-help guides and information, and more bespoke support. These can include webinars and events. Many are pre-recorded so that you can watch at a later date, training and leadership programmes, funding calls, signposting, net zero support as we've looked through, and there's Fair Work diagnostic support. There's a link to a Fair Work diagnostic and it can be found on the HIE website. And the tool is designed to help your organisation to progress fair work principles and aims to balance the rights and responsibilities of employers and workers. HIE has also developed a support finder and the link is attached. You can search here, use the search function to find the support that you're looking for. You can sign up for a My HIE account and you can save your searches and request updates and newsletters. The next slide, please, is about social enterprise funds. So just quickly, I've highlighted two funds here. The first is the Catalyst Fund, and it's a new kind of social investment product and support for ambitious social enterprises to start and scale their businesses. It offers loans starting at £50,000 using a flexible revenue-based repayment model. The second one is a partnership between Social Investment Scotland and Zero Waste Scotland, and it's the Net Zero Transition Fund. It's designed to support social enterprises in the wider third sector to make the transition to carbon net zero. The purpose of the fund is to support social sector organisations in their journey to become low carbon neutral and to develop the circular economy. The fund provides loans from £10,000 and organisations may also be eligible to apply for a small grant. So on to the next slide. The next slide is basically is links that I've discussed throughout the presentation. So hopefully you'll find these helpful. Just also demonstrates the huge amount of support that's available to organisations, but you need to know to look in the right place. And the final slide, please. So thank you for listening to the presentation. And if you want to speak to anybody within HIE, I've included our inquiries website, email address there that you can contact, or you can speak to your existing HIE contact. And I will now pass back to Laura. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Nicola. I'm sure there's lots of people that will be bookmarking the FBS website now. It's really good to see all that information pulled together in one place. I'm sure everyone will agree. If you'd like to ask any questions of our panelists, pop them into the Socio Q&A box and you'll get a chance to have them answered soon. Our final speaker on this session will talk about the structure, funding and membership benefits of his own regional food group in Jersey. Sharing his own food and drink story this morning is John Garton. John, I think you need to unmute.
Sorry about the schoolboy error from here in Jersey. So so I'm joining you from Jersey at the other end of the British Isles. I'm going to talk to you about our scheme called Genuine Jersey. We're going to talk about how we developed a recognizable brand, how we've got good community support, how we've kept our costs down, and we've encouraged private funding, and for the maximum benefit of members, which all in all has kept government engaged. So if we can have the first slide, please. Thank you. So I work for a company called Jersey Product Promotion 2017 Limited. It's a non-profit company limited by guarantee. So right from the word go, it's structured to keep costs down. We have an honorary chairman and honorary directors, and just myself as an executive director. It's really important that we're part of government rural economy strategy. So we're tied into what we're doing. Clearly, we have a different, so you're aware of it, we have a different government here. We're not part of England or the UK. We have a Jersey government here, and we're into their rural economy strategy. And JPPL has a partnership agreement with government that lays down what it is we need to deliver, and we receive a grant from government to do that. And we do it through two entities. One is Farm Jersey, and the other one is Genuine Jersey. Farm Jersey is marketing support for agriculture, and Genuine Jersey is a provenance scheme. So next slide, please. Focusing on Genuine Jersey, it's a public-private partnership. It has a management committee, all of whom are honorary, and it has a charter that is effectively lays down the rules as to what it is that we are there to do. And it's an association for all things that are made, grown, caught and reared, not just farm, but also things that are made. So it's got quite a broad base. That's really important in that it allows us to draw funding in and membership from a broader base than just growing. And we own the Genuine Jersey collective trademark. We have that in Jersey, in the Channel Islands, in the UK, across Europe, in China, and the USA. So we're keeping costs down while having maximum benefit to members. Next slide, please. We have an assessment criteria which is overseen by the management committee. It's looking at the management committee, consider applications every quarter. And they also review the progress we're making against an annual plan. So I present that plan to the committee every November. They sign it off and I report back every quarter to let them know how we're doing. And we invite local producers to apply. When they do, we're looking at what the percentage of local ingredient is, the manufacturing processes, and also the skill of the producer. Every product is assessed in the same way, whether it be grown, made, caught or reared. If that product meets the criteria, then the product can carry the trademark and the producer can become a member of the association on payment of a fee. So that's the fundamentals of our scheme. Next slide, please. We currently have 181 members and they're paying, as a sole trader, it's £156 per annum, so just £3 a week. The larger the producing member is, the more they would pay. So over 50 employees is 1,386. We also encourage private income at this stage, so sponsors. We have 16 local sponsors These are companies that want to support what we're doing, and they're putting in, I think it's about £10,000 between them, which is really good, of course, for members to have income coming from elsewhere. We also have one Patron. This is a company that puts in over £5,000 a year and gets really involved in what we're doing. That's part of their CSR program. And they want to demonstrate that they are supporting the scheme. So we're drawing money in from the private sector. Of course, government likes money coming in from the private sector as well as the public purse. And government then puts money in. We get a grant from them of £28,000. We also get a top-up grant to run the Christmas markets here. Each year is £15,000. So government income is lower than private sector, and that suits government. So that's our £90,000 a year. We're spending that on advertising to encourage people to look for the mark before they buy, on content creation, on press relations, social media events, and so on. Education is an important one. Now, our expenditure there, it seems like my number is possibly dropped off, but it's 90,000. So we spend our income each year. And it's great that we have no employee or head office costs within the scheme. Next slide, please. Membership benefits. We see that the more benefits there are for members, the more likely they are to join the scheme. So they benefit by, so we're doing a lot of advertising to encourage people to buy the products, and we split it into two campaigns: resident and visitor, and food and non-food. And then we're organising events that members can sell direct. So we have about summer markets and the Christmas market. And we're building ties with retailers and restaurateurs, both bricks and clicks. And I think it's important at this stage to say that the advertising really is to get the consumer to look for the product. And so they're putting the pressure on those restaurants and retailers to list a local product. We've got a web presence. Anybody wants to have a look at that, they can click through. All the members are on there and what it is we're doing. And of course, social media becoming all more important. So we have a dedicated person running our social media and also supporting members. We're providing merchandising material and part funding labelling for members also. A big draw for members is the public and product liability insurance that we offer. That's through a sponsor, and it enables new entrants to get to market quicker and easier because we're reducing those costs. Next slide, please. So the results, just some headlines from some market research we did not very long ago. We got very good awareness of the brand. Most respondents, 66%, are looking for products that carry quality marks. Consumers know that the mark is a sign of loyalty and quality, sustainability, environmental strong associated with buying local produce. So it's really the mark is helping people to identify product that meets those criteria. An important one, I think, is that we found through the research that quite a large percentage of people are willing to pay more on local product, and that's really good news for our members. And 49% were influenced to buy local produce when choosing a meal in a restaurant. So it's not why they choose the restaurant, but when they're in the restaurant, they're looking for local ingredients. And the last one there, main reason for buying local is not really to support the economy or to eat seasonally or reduce carbon footprint. The main reason was to support farming families. And we found that a really interesting bit of research. So by those farming families putting the mark on the product, it makes it easier for the consumer to find their products on the shelves. So last slide, please. So in conclusion, we've developed that recognizable brand. We've got really good community support. It's been going for 20 years. So I suppose, that's an advantage of the scheme. It doesn't keep changing. We've kept costs really low, so that's encouraged more members and more sponsors, and of course, government. We've encouraged private funding, and we've maximized member benefits. And all in all, it's kept government engaged. And we find that fundamentally important to keep government as a regular funding. It's great to hear that your funding is going to continue until the end of 2022, I think it was. But really, governments have got to engage for longer periods of time to allow these schemes to move on. The final slide, is one of our happy members. Anybody who wants to get hold of that deck afterwards, there's a click through there to one of the videos that's been produced using the Patron funding. And we got 181, I hope they're all smiling today, members out there. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you very much, John. I'm sure you'll have given our regional food groups some food for thought there with your presentation. All of today's slides will be in the conference delegate follow-up pack, so keep an eye on that hitting your inbox within the next week. So now it's over to our conference delegates to ask questions of our panelists or to comment on what you've seen and heard. So while we're waiting for any questions coming in, I don't see any in the box yet, but I'll kick off with one for John. John, what would you say is the genuine Jersey corporate backing or sponsorship deal that you're most proud of?
I think probably the Patron one that we achieved last year. So we launched the Patron mark in our 20th year, and pretty quickly actually we got Smith and Williamson to come on board to help fund £5,000 worth of marketing work, and we're using that to create the Patron videos. So we're going to run a 3-year program of producing one video every week, 156 videos to enable our producers to tell their story, and then we're pushing that out through social media channels we've got quite good coverage of. So I think all in all, I think that's a really good bit of work for us to be working with the finance sector here, to pull money from one sector into our I suppose slightly less funded area, and for the benefit of members, and all of the money that we get from them goes into those videos. So that was a big win last year.
Excellent, thank you. I don't see any other questions coming through yet. Nick, where should businesses, SME businesses, go in the first place for advice, SMEs from the Highlands and Islands, if they're looking for advice? Where would you suggest is the first stop or point of call?
Well, I suppose they need to consider what type of advice they're looking for. But again, you can find advice on the Find Business Support web portal. So that gives you a really good flavour of what kind of support is out there. But other organisations, speak to a local business gateway office in terms of advice, speak to your local HIE office, depending on what type of advice you're looking for. But given that the local authorities are now going to be onboarded onto Find Business Support, I think there's going to be a huge amount of information available there. So that would be my first suggestion. And I think really importantly, signing up for the newsletter, because anything new that gets added to the portal, I think it's twice a week, it comes out on a Wednesday and a Friday. You'll receive automatic updates, and that should keep you really well informed of what's available and from where.
That was another question I had for you, was how do businesses keep on top of what's there? Is it a case of constantly looking back and forward? But that's good to know they can sign up for that newsletter and then they'll get an alert through.
Yep, automatic
Thank you.
updates, which saves a bit of time, so it's really useful.
Sounds good. Ali, I had a question for you on EDGE funding. So you're not on my screen at the moment, I'll move that across. Ali, I'm aware that you've been supporting businesses, you've been working with HIE to support some businesses who are applying and pitching for EDGE funding. Have you got any success stories that you can share with us on that?
Yeah, I believe one of our last winners in December was actually speaking in the actual activity before this one, but without naming names. EDGE is the Scottish government-run competition for entrepreneurs that have got businesses that have been running for less than 5 years in terms of trading. And it's been through at least 18, 19 rounds now, but just in the last 3, we've had 4 or 5 food and drink winners from the Highlands and Islands of different types of companies. They run twice a year, so the close down for this one's unfortunately next week, but there will be another one starting in summer. And one of our biggest winners in December, I think, got 175,000, whilst another winner early in the year got a £15,000 grant. all relevant money. But as well as Edge, if I'm thinking of actual Highlands and Islands companies in the food and drink sector who I know have got money in the last 6 months, it's also come in from the scheme HIE was running for the 50% capital equipment fund. I know food and drink companies in the Highlands that are getting smaller amounts of money from some of their chambers of commerce. There's clearly innovation voucher activity going on with food and drink. And I've begun to see quite a few companies actually investigate crowdfunding a lot more seriously, because since the pandemic has arrived on everyone on the planet, crowdfunding's, I think, started to change significantly in how it's delivering cash from investors through to businesses, especially since public sector funding is beginning to reduce quite a lot. So crowdfunding I would also look out for, and an oddball one, because it's always good to think out the box. Even yesterday, I saw a call for action out of London for trying to link up food and drink companies in the UK with Africa, which means there is funds available for certain things too. So I guess it goes back to the point that Nicola stressed as well. If you keep digging, there are lots of places where people in food and drink are currently getting support from. So just get into that network, get to know Nicola and yourselves, get signed up on that, newsletter, and start talking and asking questions. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. Thank you, Ali, it does. And when you're helping businesses with their applications for Edge, where do you think there's most kind of room for improvement?
Okay, honestly, two key things. First of all, is putting a business plan together that really is worth having. It's not a dry document. If you put a proper fluid business plan together, it articulates to an awful lot of people what you're looking for. And I think we put an awful lot of help to smaller companies, especially in that regard. And then we actually spend a lot of time on pitching because a lot of people find that nervous. But what I always say to people is we get some people that don't even want to look you in the eye, and then 3 months later they're on the TV and we can't get them off. It's like riding a bike. You just have to do it and learn it and fall off a few times, then it becomes normal.
Thank you. There's a question coming from the audience for John. How do you target members and then ensure an inclusive support and exposure for them going forward?
So actually, we never go to producers to invite them to join the scheme. I found in the past that actually they tend not to stay for very long. Or they realise, it's slightly different to what they were expecting. So really, through our activity, we're trying to push through and make sure they hear of our activities, whether it be markets or social media support, and they apply. So we don't encourage, effectively we don't go to them. We want them to come to us, and then we run through what the costs and benefits are. I think, ultimately what happens is in the scheme is that for every £1 a member puts in, we manage to pull £2 other pounds in from somewhere else. And so if and there are no head office costs. And so what we're really doing is taking that £1 and giving £3 worth of value back. And so it's good value for a local producer to be a member of the scheme. And really each of the 3 funding partners, whether it be government, the private sector or members, they all see that there's more going on than just the money that they're funding. And so everyone seems to be winning. And we're just constantly trying to give more benefit than there is cost. And in that way, people will stay and the association will grow.
Thank you. There was another question there. Nicola, this is probably one for you, and Ali might want to chip in as well. So what's the biggest mistake SMEs make in completing HIE application forms, would you say?
Yeah, I think Ali kind of covered that in his presentation as well. It's really reading the questions and providing the information that's asked for. And I think really important to do that kind of sense check and make sure that everything's been included the first time round, and then ensuring that you've got your business plan in place, which is providing an accurate picture of the status of your organisation and clearly articulating what it is, what help you're needing and what you're asking for. So I think they're kind of fundamental areas to ensure that you've covered in any conversation or application that you're looking to submit. So I think that would probably be cover that, Laura. And I think in addition, Ali mentioned the Scottish Edge. So in the slide of links that I'd included and which will be circulated later, I've included the Edge link, and I've also included another link to Interface, which is support with research and linking you to academic institutions across Scotland. And that's a really, really valuable tool in terms of that kind of initial fact finding. You can get innovation vouchers, interface vouchers for doing specific areas of research. So it's really well worth a look as well.
Yeah, could I add something to that, Laura, please?
Sure.
I would add one extra thing. I totally agree with what Nicola said. I'd also add that let's talk outside food and drink. Any sector I've worked in terms of getting investment, the other thing that doesn't get people investment is validation of demand, i.e. talking to real people so that you can reduce risk for any investor to see this is a no-brainer. If I give them the money, this is going to happen because they've actually been talking to people in the market. And a lot of applications come in without actually doing that. We'll get a headline, the market is worth X million. It's come from a statement on the website somewhere. Nothing beats talking to real potential customers. You need to know that customer base and you need to understand why they're going to buy for you, I think, before you can really push through what I call an excellent application. And I stress it because it's excellent applications that actually get the money and as a limited pot. So validation of your market demand.
Can I,
Sorry,
Laura?
on you go.
I was going to just add to that as well. We'll start a conversation, Ali, between ourselves. I was just going to say as well, I think on the back of that, it's really important to demonstrate what the impact or what the added value is going to be of that investment that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, the so what of the difference it's going to make and what the outcomes are going to be, because you want to really demonstrate that in your application or your conversations. Because again, that's what funders will be looking to see the added value that money will go towards.
I've got a similar question that links quite well to what you're talking about there. What's the best Highlands and Islands food and drink pitch you've ever seen? That might be one that Ali can cover from what he's seen from the Edge.
Actually, I don't know if I can answer that because there's maybe people sitting that I know listening to this right now. I guess I've seen a good few. Actually, there was a couple of crackers just this past December. So I'll maybe be diplomatic and answer that in a slightly different way. What actually raises a good pitch above average is confidence in yourself, actually. It's like, believe it or not, if you go to a pub and they're doing karaoke and somebody sits and picks up the mic and sings a few words, great. Karaoke is not about being a good singer. Karaoke is about putting on an entertainment. So if you project yourself out to people, and that's what we run through when we go through pitching with people, that's what makes a difference. And that comes from practice, actually. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Anyone else want to add anything in there? No. Another question just come in. John, how much do you think local people value genuine Jersey?
Yeah, well, great question. So, I think we always think of that in terms of a pie of the whole market. 110,000 people living here. We got some people, who really value it. And high, and are really prepared to go the extra mile. And at the other end of the scale, of course, we've got people who really don't know much about it and don't care. And of course, so what we're trying to do is just to increase the number of people that care. When I first started back in 2010, I think market research showed that we had about 25% of people engaged in the brand. And pre-pandemic, we'd seen that increase to 33%. I think during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people turn to local. And so the interest in the association was far greater. I think people had a bit more time to get out in the countryside, maybe, and actually really cared about the supply chain and so on. So I think our percentage will have grown, and we see that the members are, I think, engaging more with consumers. So I think we've got, I'd like to think we've got half of the population who are engaged in the brand and regularly purchasing products that carry the mark. But we've still, obviously, we've still got a long way to go. And I think, it's a gradual process to get as many people engaged as possible. And actually, we're not really going to get everybody at the end of the day. We do find that local, it's expensive, Jersey. Cost of living here is now is really high, higher than the UK. I think we hear it's higher than London. So it's crazy days for us here. So cost of production is high, and so the end product is high. Imported product tends to be cheaper, bigger farms, bigger, mass production and so on. And so there are lots of challenges. And it was, part of the research was important to show that locals are prepared to pay a little bit more to support local. But that's not everybody. That's just a small group of the population. And we really want to grow that as time passes to get more and more people to realize how important it is to support local. That's one of our aims.
Thank you. Another question, John, that you might want to chip in to. We're often told that regional food groups should be financially self-sustaining. Is that a realistic goal, do you think?
No. Longer answer. So I think it's really hard. It's all very well me saying that Genuine Jersey doesn't have any head office costs, but clearly it's got me as a cost up in the other company that's day-to-day running Genuine Jersey. I think what we try to do through JPPL is have a broader base, and so I do other jobs for government. The government used to do. I organise the farming conference. I have oversight for the Jersey Royal trademark, and so I police the trademark. The Jersey Royal trademark, and I also run a UK PR campaign for Jersey Royal. So campaigns and marketing campaigns that sometimes government's not very good at, that's outsourced to me. So my job is quite varied. I do these other things while I'm running Genuine Jersey, and so the cost is sort of is shared, and I guess I've got some marketing expertise, even if I can't put the mic on a Zoom call. Sorry about that. At least my communication skills should be good enough to help government to do things effectively that they're not sometimes very good at themselves. So that's hopefully that's answered your question. Yeah,
it has. Thank you very much. Thank you. So there's still another few minutes if you're still to vote in the poll. We will be announcing that just in a minute or two. I don't think we have any other questions, so I'd like to thank you all very much, our panelists, for your contributions this morning, and to our audience for all your questions. And we hope that these are just the beginning of some long-running conversations. It's almost time now for our 15-minute break. So I will announce the result of the funding poll. So business plan, a necessary evil or a secret to success. So a necessary evil, 33.3%, and a secret to success, 66.7%. Some food for thought there. So almost time for a 15-minute coffee break or speed networking, whichever you've opted into. If you've opted into the speed networking in Socio, you'll be randomly allocated a group of delegates on the screen in just a few minutes. You can chat about what you've heard over the course of this morning so far. And if you're having a break, then you can rejoin us at noon for either the food and drink tourism session or the net zero panel, which will run in parallel until 12:55. So come back and join us at 12 o'clock. You can watch whichever panel that you miss afterwards on the HIE YouTube channel. So select the content that you're most likely to engage with live today by asking questions of our panelists. So enjoy your 15-minute break, and we will hopefully see you all again at noon. Thank you very much.